Hey guys, it has been a minute or two since I've been with you as Doc and Doc's Thoughts, but I wanted to come to you and just talk a little bit, maybe a little longer, a little deeper than you want to go, but I want to go a little bit into the world of AI. Yep, I want to talk about AI, artificial intelligence, and how it works in the classroom and how you might could experience it, because I think it will be something that revolutionizes our lives even more than we could ever imagine. Our future is built on what's going to happen with AI. Computer scientist Andrew Ng says this. He said, AI is the new electricity. Now, think about that. Electricity changed the way we live a century ago, everything. And electricity is very positive. I mean, it's awesome. I like flipping on a light switch. It works. We got electricity going right now, even with batteries and other things going. But electricity can also shock you just a little bit. So I want us to think about, as we fast forward, as we look at AI, how we can embrace AI and the new electricity that is here, or the new revolution, like the Industrial Revolution, and what's going on. Now, in 2024, just a year, 2 years ago, about 66% of students were using AI for school, just school. I know we're using it in every other aspect of life. You fast forward to today, and in 2026, 86% of students are using AI in the classroom. And we're trying to get at that point to a lot higher when it comes to education, especially at Jefferson Middle School. We're going to be looking at how we can get that trend going even more and have more people involved. So think about it. Electricity can light up your room. It can light up your world. So can AI. In fact, I think that's what AI is going to be able to do. It's going to revolutionize what we are going to try and accomplish. Now, let's start with something. When we start using AI, a lot of people said, I don't want to use AI because it's like cheating. Or I don't want to use AI because it's plagiarism, or it's this, or it's that, or it's the other thing. It's going to do my work for me, and I need to do the work on my own. We say that because we're scared of AI. We also say that because, believe it or not, we have an ethics about us. There's something ethical about our life that says, I want to do well. Well, in social studies class, as we move forward, when we deal with the issue like of citizenship, being good citizens, voting, taking care of the world, being a good citizen of the planet, and those things, that's really what we're talking about when it comes to AI ethical purposes. It's hard to say. So when we start using the ethics of AI, we need to start looking at AI as a tool, not as our brain. We still need to think. And we need AI to help come alongside of us as a partner tool to our brain, a partner tool to our thoughts. Now, here's the trend that I'm seeing right now in my imagination. This is all Doc. You ready? I believe that you take people with AI who are bright, like they're bright people. AI is going to make them smart. But when you take smart people, AI is going to make you brilliant. It's going to up that level just a little bit. And in my opinion, brilliant people are going to own the world. When you think about your career, what you're going to go into, you think about your fields that you're probably going to be doing, or we talked about it before, the field that you're going to create, because you're going to be doing some stuff that's not being done right now. You're going to work in an industry that's not happening right now. Every single one of those industries, every single one of those jobs are going to be influenced and impacted by AI. When we learn to use artificial intelligence, when we learn to harness its power, when we learn to do all those things, we're going to be more equipped to step into our future. And I think make money, make a living, make a difference for somebody's life. But it really does start in the very beginning with ethics. It starts with where we are in an ethical approach to using AI. Someone at Microsoft, Satya Nadella, said this. So the purpose of AI is to amplify human ingenuity and not to replace it. So as we're using AI, we've got to ask ourselves some questions. First of all, am I being transparent? Do I cite AI as it's helping me brainstorm things? Do I cite AI when it's helping me find resources and research? What part? Or am I using it exclusively? If you're only using the brainstorming that AI is giving you, that's unethical. But if you're allowing it to interact with your brain, that's ethical. But am I being transparent about the way it works? Number two, am I checking for bias? We all have a bias. We all have a bent. I have a bias. Y'all know that. I'm pretty biased when it comes to things, and I talk about my bias, but at least I know what my bias is. AI is trained from data that they find on the internet, or that it finds on the internet. It generates from the internet. It's not always accurate. It's also not always fair. So what are the bias that have been built into it? So am I checking to see, is it biased or not? I'll talk more about that later. And then, am I learning or just completing an assignment? See, now that's a really big question. Am I actually learning this material, or am I just checking a box so I can complete an assignment and turn in what I've done for my grade, so to speak? I mean, yeah, a chatbot, it can write your whole essay for you, but it's not your essay. It can help you build certain things, but unless it's you that's building it. So you want to use that chatbot to ask questions about your essay, about your work. You want it to give you some research that you can enter into your writing and make the writing your own. I hope that makes sense, because ethics in this and an ethical use of AI in the classroom is going to be huge as we go forward, because we've got to learn that we can trust ourselves and we can trust others with the information that we are finding. Well, let's jump in. So now that we got that out of the way, I want to look at basically how we can use it in the social studies classroom, the history classroom, to be able to help. Okay, we're not all historians. I get that. We don't all get excited about history. I get that. I do. I get turned on by it. But if you just imagine, because you have to do history, because you have to do research in a historical basis, instead of just reading a lot of textbooks, you can use AI to quickly get to the material that you need. And so it's going to save you a little bit of time. Now, that doesn't avoid you of the need of reading those textbooks. Those textbooks are very valuable for you, but when you have a limited amount of time, AI can help you in that source. It also can give you suggestions about textbooks to go look at. It can help you analyze a primary source. Love using primary source documents. So you can take a diary entry that is, say, 200 years old, 150 years old, that maybe it's on we're celebrating the 250th anniversary of the United States. Maybe it's a 250-year-old document. It's a diary entry on the processes by which the Sons of Liberty met together. And so you're looking at those things. So it can examine for you, help you examine that document in mere seconds to analyze some of the background that is there. Also, it can help you play the what if game. I love that what if game. What if this happened? Well, what if that had not happened? Well, use the simulations that are found in AI to look at a new version of history. What could have changed? What may have been different if the decisions had have been different? What if Britain not been prepared for the Blitz and for the bombing of London? And what if they'd left their lights on? And what if they'd have done a different process by that? They had not protected themselves or moved the children out. What if? What would have been the death toll? What would have been those things that would have gone on during that process of that examination? AI also can help you, which is one of my favorite things to do, is connect the dots of history. You can see something that has happened in the past, but how does it relate to us today? How can we learn from our past? How can we learn from those things that we see in the past and be able to translate those over into the future? So AI can help you connect the dots in a blink of an eye by asking a really good question. I heard a student recently say this: history may not repeat itself, but it does rhyme. So with AI, we can find the rhyme, we can find the rhythm, we can find the interactions that are there that'll help us as we dig in. And with that, it helps us really impact some of our thoughts about the future. What's the future going to be like? Now that I know the past, what's it going to be like? So AI can become for you a debate partner. We may not feel as sharp debating somebody, an individual, but what about debating the AI machine, the chatbot? I mean, one of the favorite things that we can do is challenge our opinion about an issue, challenge our opinion or our thought process. maybe there's a certain law that you're trying to examine, and you can see, well, what are some reasons that I could disagree with myself over this. AI can provide some of those things. So it's not just about getting the answers. That's where it helps us with critical thinking, and that's where we need to go. We need to start understanding that I need to think critically about where I'm at. Education to me is about learning to ask a better question. The more educated I am, the better the question that I can form so that I can learn more things. And that's what AI is going to be able to provide for us, is assistance in our critical thinking. It may not change your opinion, but it's going to help you think more critically about where you are. I mean, just think about where we're going with this. In the future, the education market of AI alone is projected by 2035 to reach $136 billion with a B dollars. That's a lot of money. It's also going to generate that kind of income for individuals. So we need to pay attention to these things. So this box that we have is not just an answer box. It's really a collaborative machine. So it helps us solve some huge problems, and it helps us be able to dig into, we have an idea, but how do we help solve that problem? Now, problem-solving skills are more essential today than ever. And we've got to learn, how do we navigate these situations and circumstances that we can solve these problems? Some of it's identifying the problem, but then it is trying to answer that problem and come up with a creative solution. Well, in the classroom, as we began to deal with it and we use it, there's really some helpful hints that I want to give to you. You've heard the 80-20 principle. I think you can apply that to AI. Let 20% be the heavy lifting that AI does, but let 80% be what you have provided it. You've given it the big ideas. You've given it the passion. You've given it then the other side. You give it the final voice of what it sounds like, what it looks like. So don't forget that you get to prompt it. And so you're not just asking a prompt, well, tell me about the Civil War, tell me about Mao Zedong, or do whatever. No, you're asking it to explain complex issues. And so you've got to know what you're doing. We're dealing with Asia right now and some Asian history. So you could say, explain the factors that went into the failure of the Great Leap Forward to a 7th grade student who is concerned about the involvement of a communist government. Boom. And it'll give you some insights. It may even, the ones we've set up, will ask you more prompt questions that you can hear. But then you need to check some facts. Go back and look at the facts. Around 63% of our students have indicated that AI makes mistakes. Let me say that again. 63% of our students report that AI is making some kind of a mistake. So you need to go back and check a fact. You need to check that with Britannica. You need to check that with other sites, other sources, and say, I can verify that this is it. Well, let me give you some helpful hints, because again, like I said, we get lazy. I don't want you to get lazy. I want you to learn how to ask a really good question of things. So when you're doing research, here's a great question to ask. And I'm going to use a couple things in American history. So AI can help you outline. So I have these 5 facts. Name those 5 facts. These are the 5 facts I have. It's about the Great Depression. And you enter those facts. Can you help me organize these into a logical outline to form 4 or 5 paragraphs? Boom. It's a good question. You're studying the branches of government. So tell it, I'm studying the 3 branches of government. Don't give me the answers, but ask me 5 challenging questions at a time to see if I'm ready. So then it can ask you questions and you interact with the chatbot over answering the questions, and it can lead you to discovery. It also leads you to know I do know what I'm talking about. It gives you confidence. Maybe you heard a quote. There's a lot of quotes out there about Abraham Lincoln. One of my favorite Abraham Lincoln quotes is this. Abraham Lincoln said, I didn't say half of what the internet says that I said. Abraham Lincoln. Now, do you believe he said that? Well, I do, because it's on the internet. So it's got to be true, right? Well, ask that question. Can you help me verify the accuracy of this quote by Abraham Lincoln, by Mao Zedong, by, enter name here, okay? Truman Capote, I don't know. Then you could even have it debate. come up with some debating things. I think that the voting role in America ought to be reduced to the age of 17. So debate with me as that. Be a critic of this idea and let's debate. And so it could debate. Maybe you have some things that you're trying to read and you don't understand them. To me, this is a good one. I've assigned something for you to read and you don't quite understand it. Copy it. Put it in that chat and say, simplify this into 5 bullet points that a 5th grader can understand. I know you're in 7th grade. I know you may even be in college, but that a 5th grader can understand. Bam. All of a sudden, it gives you a simplified version of those things. You also can do some comparison. Comparisons are great. It's one of the things that we're supposed to do in education. We compare and contrast. So why don't you ask it to create a table that a middle school student can understand? Maybe about, I don't know, I came up with an idea about ancient Sparta versus ancient Athens, okay? And you could look at education, family life, experimental life, sports life, I don't know, basket weaving, whatever it might be, entertainment, and put that in there and ask it to create a table to compare and see what happens. Why? Why do you do this? So what? Let's ask it a question. Explain the causes of World War I, but use a metaphor that a middle school student can understand, as in a disagreement that's on the playground. By the way, I got that from AI. See how this works? So you can begin to ask some of those questions and begin to dig in on all of that stuff. I want you to understand as we close this down, I want you to think about what you're thinking about. And I want you to think very deeply on, how do I ask a better question? How do I interact in such a way that my prompt becomes very specific and the prompt gives me exactly what I need to know? And then when it doesn't give it to you, how can I ask a follow-up question so that I can get to where I need to be? Remember, the AI chatbot is 20% of your work. It's doing the heavy work of examining all of these millions of data points that's out there. And it's generating that information for you very, very quickly. Albert Einstein one time said, the measure of intelligence is the ability to change. The measure of intelligence is the ability to change. Our world is changing. Our world is in a constant, non-stop change, and you are right in the middle of a cataclysmic shift in AI, artificial intelligence, right now. You're at a point where I'm going to encourage you to lift your sails on your sailboat, and you get caught in the great wind. You be the captain of your ship. You be the one that navigates these waters for yourself. You learn the powerful things that are out there. It's going to make for a better future for other people and for yourself. It's going to make this world a better place. You've got in you what it takes to be able to do it. Unlock your creativity. Unleash your curiosity and let it loose and let those things be absolutely incredible. Well, Dr. Newman sharing with you just a few Doc's thoughts. Maybe with a little bit of assist from artificial intelligence, but a whole lot of Doc's thoughts. So don't be afraid. Grab hold of AI with both hands and let's hang on and enjoy the ride.